We're usually a poor copy of somebody else, but we can be number one at being us.
You're listening to Idea Charger Radio. Hey there, Success Chargers, and welcome back. It's Scott. You're here with episode number 40, and I'm certainly glad that you're here. I want to take a quick minute to say a special thank you for all of our new listeners that have joined us in the past week. We have been very fortunate. We've had a great number of people that are big fans of Lori Harrison, who was last week's guest on episode 39, and many of you have had the chance to listen to her interview that we did last week, and many of you, I believe, have become subscribers now to the show, and I'm certainly glad that you're here because we've made this show for folks like you, people that see opportunity where other people see problems and don't share the same vision and the big dreams that you have. We've made this show for you, and if Lori's message has resonated with you, you certainly know that this show will as well. So I hope you get a lot out of it. Love to hear from you. Send us a message anytime. Podcast at ideacharger.com. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Success Charger Podcast. We'll take you right there. Drop off a note, like us, say hi, let us know you listen to the show. We certainly appreciate it, and certainly appreciate you for just being a part of the show. Hope you get something great out of it. I'm coming to you this week from just outside of beautiful San Francisco, California. I'm up here doing some work with a group of air traffic controllers, and we've just had a great time. I'm midway through a 2-day visit with them here in the San Francisco area. It's been pretty cool. Got a chance to peek inside the control room. Couldn't take any photos, though. There's a lot of security issues and such with that, so certainly understand that. But nonetheless, was really excited to actually see what they do and get to talk to these folks. There's some really amazing people that are keeping us safe. So in the name of passenger safety, if you know an air traffic controller, give them a big hug tonight. Tell them thank you for what you do, because they're doing a great service for us that travel on the road all the time and people like me. So, hey, just want to also let you know that I'd be curious to find out from you. Where do you listen to our show? That's just one of the things I'm trying to figure out. I'm looking at some of the demographics and looking at the download patterns and things for the show, and I'm just curious, where are you listening to us? So is it in the shower when you're feeling inspired in the morning? Is it on your commute to or from your work? You listen to us in your home office, at the gym, when you're walking the dog? Where do you listen to the podcast? I'd love to hear from you. So there's a couple of ways. Stop by the Facebook page. You can tweet us at IdeaCharger and let us know where you listen to the show, or just drop us an email, podcast at ideacharger.com. I'd just like to hear about that, and we'll tell you more about why I was curious about that as we move ahead in the weeks ahead. So we'll be checking back with you, so be sure to send us a message early and let us know what's going on with you. Hey, before we get to our interview with Jess Todtfeld, who is a media consultant, I just want to tell you for a minute that I got word just kind of at the last minute here. Jess is also being interviewed on the podcast that's hosted by Craig Price. Now, Craig's a friend of the show. He's got a fantastic show at Reality Check with Craig Price. It's also available on iTunes and Stitcher and all the usual podcast outlets. I would encourage you to check it out. Hey, follow him on Twitter at Reality Check Pod. That's where you can get there. Our guest today is Jess Todtfeld. Jess can be found at Media Jess. That's Jess. And he's easy to be found. But Todd's a great... Todd? Really? It's not Todd. It's Todtfeld. Why am I calling him Todtfeld? Well, because that's what Bill O'Reilly called him when he worked for him. So Jess Todtfeld is a pretty exciting guy. He has a lot of energy and shares so many great ideas. It's hard to get him all wrangled all into one place at one time. But we've done our best and put him together here with an interview. And I think you're going to enjoy it. We had a lot of fun recording this one. I've gotten to know Jess a lot better over the last few months as we have been communicating after meeting at a conference a few months back. And he hails from New York City, so he has an office in the Times Square area, so it's really cool. But he's going to teach you how to leverage the media to showcase your expertise and drive more business to your business. So he's going to teach you how to get yourself on television and how you can leverage some of the technologies that are available today to do a lot of great work, and I encourage you to check him out as well. Hey, I also want to give one more shout out to all my friends from DDI. DDI is a company that I do a lot of work on behalf of as a facilitator. They send me out to do some work on behalf of their clients, and I'm really privileged to be part of their cadre of consultants that go out on the road. Give them a follow. They do so. If you're kind of into leadership and learning data and information, you need to follow them on Twitter at DDI World. And I just want to say special thanks. I know that 2 episodes back, we interviewed the global leader who is in charge of facilitator excellence, my friend John Verdone. And we had a fun time doing that. I know the folks at DDI have been sharing the word and links to our interview out. So I just want to say thanks to you guys for driving some traffic our way, and hope you're enjoying the show as well. As I mentioned, Jess Todtfeld is our guest today, and why do I think this guy knows what he's talking about? Well, he spent about 13 years as a television producer. He has now spent almost equally as much time as a media consultant, and he holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the greatest number of interviews held. He was not interviewing, he was interviewed well over 100 times. I think the number, if I remember right, somewhere around 120 something, but he talks about it in a 24-hour period. So you'll hear a little bit about that story. And also he kind of lets you know about a little something that you might be interested in if you think that media is a way you want to grow your business. And if you want to check with Jess, you can certainly send him a message. He gives you all the details on where to find him. But again, you can find him on Twitter at MediaJess, or you can send us a email addressed to Jess on behalf of the show at podcast@ideacharger.com. We'll send it on his way because he can help make it possible for you to get your hands on a list of media connections if you want to broadcast out a message about yourself and try to gain yourself a little bit of exposure. So there's a lot coming in this power-packed episode. I'm going to jump right to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy your interview with Jess Todtfeld. Which was kind of fun. Folks, I've got with me today Jess Todtfeld, media guru extraordinaire. Huh? You like that for a title?
I'll take it.
Yeah. Is that a title you've had before? I know you've had lots of them.
I've been called a few things, but that's one of the better ones. Okay.
That's one of the better ones. It's all good. Hey, we're going to be talking today about a lot of different angles about really, Jess, you're my go-to guy for media questions because you're
going to have answers today.
It's even better. I can ask lots of questions. Given all of the various technologies that people can leverage today to try to get their message out, is television still relevant?
I think it is still relevant, but there are a few new pieces of the puzzle. If you're talking about business people, people who run their own business, entrepreneurs, people who want to make something happen, the other pieces of the puzzle are, it used to be that was the only game in town meaning traditional media, TV, print, radio. You do this interview and then it's done. That's it. It's gone. If people didn't tune in then, that was it. But the way I see it is it can have this long afterlife if you go and you put it on your website, obviously YouTube, your various social media channels. I'll just give you a quick example. I was interviewed on The Daily Show in one of their field pieces, yes, in 2009. And I still have people who say, oh, I just saw that on the internet, and they probably stumbled on it on one of my pages, going through, one of my media pages or something like that, and said, wow, that was very cool. And it was one of the reporters, so it wasn't Jon Stewart, so it would have been a little dated if he had left, but also I think equally as cool. But the thing is, it will have this long shelf life if you put it on your social media outlets, so and your marketing outlets. So the thing is, yes, definitely still relevant, and also for credibility. It's an implied endorsement when the media sees that, when people see that you've done a media interview.
If somebody is on television and they do get some footage, right? So for example, somewhere around 2007, 8, 9-ish, somewhere in there. So maybe almost, 10 years ago, 8 or 10 years ago, there was an event that happened. I was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the time, and I wound up on the news because I got nominated for a Citizen Appreciation Award by the police. I helped them get a guy out of a burning apartment, literally.
Really? Very nice.
Yeah, and it was just one of those things. The news showed up and they caught some video that day, and then they found out about it later. And when the police department PR folks put out a press release that they were going to give me this Citizen Appreciation Award, they actually called me down. I went to the studio, did an interview, and this was kind of the pre-YouTube everything days, right? So I don't even know how I got it, but I have footage of that particular story from 2 different news outlets. Is that still relevant to use? I mean, it's not directly tied to my message, so I don't really use it, but it's on my YouTube channel.
And remind everybody what your message is.
I talk to people about the power of connection, how you can build lasting, profitable client relationships by focusing on connection. And that's come from my experience of looking inside over 1,000 companies over the last 6 years around the globe, and finding what's that common thread that makes successful people great.
So, I think if you had a sizzle reel that had little clips of different things, you on stage, you elsewhere, the police standing there talking about how you're an amazing citizen, and that they're giving you this award, and then people say, what was the deal with that clip? Well, I ran into a burning building. But anyway, it was not that everybody can do that. It's just an extra little humanizing piece that could slip in there where people are like, what's that about? When it comes down to it, I mean, while we're talking about TV interviews today, if we're doing this for people who have businesses, it is always back down to like, know, and trust. So I'm going to like and trust somebody who runs into burning buildings, so it doesn't hurt to have there. You don't want to obviously make it where it's so self-serving. But what you can do is you can have it where, it's this little thing that they ask some follow-up questions and say, what was that about? Almost
a teaser then. It gives them something like, oh, we didn't know this about you. What was that deal?
Right.
And then you get the chance to tell the story.
That's exactly it. So there may be a way to mix in a little of that. Having said that, I don't think I even have, maybe I do have the Daily Show thing in my little sizzle reel.
Yeah.
But I created, it looks like a movie trailer. All of these pieces, we're talking today, get yourself on TV. I mean, a big piece is just to leverage the heck out of everything. And for the people who tuning in, they don't know what a sizzle reel is. Just like a short 60 to 90 second bunch of little compilations of something about you that can help you to look great in front of your prospects or people that you want to look good in front of. So that would be a great clip. You could take the media clips, show a whole bunch of media clips. I mean, the big question to ask is, what do you want to create as an outcome of whatever you're doing? So whether it's the media interview, whether it is the sizzle reel, what is the outcome? And the big push that I have for people is what I call converting interviews. So I think we should lead up to that, converting interviews, which means turning it into business. But I want to make sure we should give some get yourself on TV strategies.
Yes, please. Let's do it.
First off, if you want to get yourself on traditional TV, you must reach out to the media and pitch yourself, or get a publicist to pitch yourself. One of 2 ways, really. Either you send them an email and you need some media email addresses. You could find that on their website. You could buy some list of media addresses. You could go to an event that has media people at it. In New York, we have a thing, actually next week, it happens twice a year, this thing called the National Publicity Summit. And TV producers come and people get to pitch them. It's like speed dating with journalists. And there's a fee that people have to pay to go to that. But a lot of times you can find some email addresses on the internet, probably more for print. Usually at the end of their article, you'll see the writer's email address. A big way of getting through, if you don't have a publicist, if you didn't pay to go to an event, would be to send an email. And basically, you need these ingredients. You ready?
That's what we want. I want the recipe right here.
Yeah,
Give me
we got
something that tastes
recipe.
good.
So the big ingredient would be the subject line. Make sure you have a subject line that grabs these people, that sounds like a newspaper headline. It's a hook, as they call it. Your hook could be, I'm just laughing because I'm thinking the old version was, what's in your medicine cabinet can kill you.
No, I'm pretty sure I saw that last night on a marketing ad for a law firm trying to build a class action lawsuit.
So there are clues out there of what works. And I'll tell you what I tell people, if you want to find clues of what really works, go to the Google News, news.google.com, and then type in your subject area. So if you talk about leadership, if you're a salesperson, if you sell shoes, type in shoes, and you'll see stories on things like the top seven shoe trends for 2016. So you say, oh, I could do that story. So you can either pitch the exact story elsewhere because you have evidence that it worked, or you can just say, well, that gives me an idea of this is really how I would say it. So my background is I run a media training company. I was a TV producer for 13 years, and I now for actually about 13 years. So basically, I help people to look great and sound great in front of the camera, but also convert interviews, get them to learn how to drive more business. And a piece of the process is how do you get the interviews? So usually I'd send them to a publicist. I'm not a publicist. That's one thing I want to say. But
tell us how somebody would do that. How would they find a publicist, and when is it appropriate to approach one?
It's always appropriate. They would like to have more business. You should find somebody who has worked with people like you.
Okay.
You can Google them. You can ask for a referral from somebody. And while I don't do my own, when I don't do publicity for other people, I do it for myself. In fact, I set a Guinness record, which is for being interviewed the most times in 24 hours, which was 112 interviews. And they had to be 5 minutes long or longer. This was on radio, and this was a few years ago when I was releasing a book that had come out. And I don't often get to bring this up, but we're redoing the office with different backgrounds. But the Guinness record happens to be right here.
Yes.
Kind of cool?
I love it.
So it's not often that I get to have that next to me. But in doing that, I realized what worked, what didn't work. So the subject line, huge. You got to come up with a great hook. For the inside of the email, it must say, hi, first name. So, hi, Scott. If you're sending it to Scott, you can use a Constant Contact, or Infusionsoft is on the other side, or MailChimp. And I use something called Your Mailing List Provider, and also the One Shopping Cart, which are, it really doesn't matter. It's whatever you like. Although the one called Your Mailing List Provider, YMLP, you can upload lists without getting everybody to opt in. And so you shouldn't spam people, but this allows you to upload a big list and then pitch them all at once. So my secret is I will send out about 3,000 or 6,000 emails at the same time with the same pitch, but it will all say, hi, Scott. So hi, first name.
Which is good if everybody's named Scott. But
that's true. I make sure it's the first name code. They give you a code so that works out. Hi, Scott. I actually have had it where, a couple of the names, some for whatever reason, are slightly off, and it's usually, one or two. And one person writes, Scott writes back and says, my name is not Charlotte. But the good news on that is then there's a back and forth. Oh my gosh, Scott, I can't believe it.
I'm such an idiot.
I'll say I'm not hiding the fact that I used a broadcast service to send out the initial email, but I really do want to have a one-to-one. And hey, Scott, would this work for your show? A story on, like, say I talk about the media. So say my story was the 5 biggest mistakes the candidates running for president are making on both sides of the aisle. And then, okay, what are the mistakes? And then I would talk about how they can fix them. And of course, they would love to say, but isn't it a mistake that Donald Trump said whatever, wild thing that he said the day before? I think if you're anybody who's not Donald Trump, It's a mistake. He's defying anything that I would ever say as a media trainer. So that one is just a complete outlier, I think. They would look at that and say, oh, wow, okay, that's worth a discussion. I would do that story. So, and I will continue to do that on news outlets between now and the election. I know I just dated your interview, but it's okay. People can live with that. They can live with that.
In 4 years, it'll be relevant again. It's fine.
It'll be relevant again. Donald Trump's running again. So back to just the strategies, the email. So hi, first name, and then something I like to put in, a yes or no question. Would the story below work for your either show? I either put in show and then just send that out to TV. If it's a newspaper, I'll say for an article or a story for you. So would the story below work for you? That is a yes or no question, and the implication is only a yes or no answer. That's what you get. So if somebody writes back and they say, yes, well, obviously that's great. But if they write back and they say, no, I'm not sure, or, actually we skew things in this other direction. Okay, great. Well, now I've got you, and we're going to have a back and forth one-to-one, not spamming people.
Right.
And I don't think it's spamming if I'm sending you a one-to-one email, but I'm just sending everybody the same one that I would have sat and typed in there. It's different than me sending Scott something every single day and bothering him. Yes. So that publicists call mass emailing spray and pray. And the reason why they do that is because they do these generic pitch emails and they just spray it everywhere. So it just says, I have a new client whose name is Scott Cooksey, and he does this and he does that. First off, you never even said hello to me. I don't know why I care about Scott. Where did you come from? Like, what is this? So my thing, back to the template. Hi, first name. Would the story below work for you? Jess. Then I sign it. That's my name. Then I draw a big line. Then I put basically what is kind of like the press release under that. So now they're like, oh, maybe I know Jess. Let me just see what this is. I mean, I opened the email because the subject line was that hook that grabbed me. It was exciting enough. So, let me scroll down. And then you have in bold the headline that was either similar or built on a little bit from that subject line. A little subhead explaining it more. Then it says Scott Cooksey is, and 2 lines maybe about who you are, your bio, but not a whole bio. And then Scott Cooksey can say, and bullet points of what you would say in the interview. And I'll tell you why this is important. I said I was a producer at ABC, NBC, and Fox. And when I was at Fox, I worked on a little unknown show that was in 1996. They launched a new show, a new channel, and the show was called The O'Reilly Factor.
Never heard of it.
That's right. They're like, I don't know. This guy seems to have a big mouth, so I don't really know what the deal is. And pitch email, that little section where you say this is what the person would say. I learned this from Bill O'Reilly. In a pitch meeting, we would read off and we'd say, Scott Cooksey is
careful now. Careful. Gather yourself.
Scott, he really leaves in the bloopers, everybody. You know what? Hey, maybe it'll go viral. We just have fun with it. Everything's an opportunity.
Oh, brother, did I just say that?
By the way, let me tell you what I love about your name, and then I'll explain what I learned from Bill O'Reilly, which when we met and we had a fun little mastermind you were part of, the person who was sitting next to you said, hey, this is a good thing for Cooksey here. And in my mind, I still thought your name was Scott Cook, and I thought he was saying Cooksey as just a fun nickname. But you have a built-in fun nickname, which is Cooksey all the time.
Yeah, it works.
Which, when I worked on Bill O'Reilly's show, he would have loved to call you Cooksey because he would sometimes come up with nicknames for people. But the thing was, the very first day, we all sat around. They hadn't even launched the channel. And Bill's being exactly Bill. And he's like, what's this story? And let's have story ideas. And I pitched some idea. And he says, I like that. Somebody write down what Jack just said. And all the other colleagues started laughing because they had worked with me elsewhere and they knew my name.
Right.
So they're like, and then someone leans in and says, it's not Jack, actually, it's Jeff, it's Jess, and he goes, Jeff is his name, Jeff, and now they're laughing harder. So imagine they're all laughing at Bill O'Reilly,
Right.
and then he goes, what's so funny? What's so funny in this room? So now I'm just smiling, kind of like, because I didn't do anything. I just sat there and pitched something that he liked.
Right.
And it's Jeff, isn't it? So even though actually he did for years call me Todtfeld. Todtfeld, what do we, what's that? Who's that guy?
What's the
Bring
one
him
fellow
on.
doing?
Yeah, he was actually very nice to me for all those years. He called me Todtfeld because he couldn't get the first name right. But here's what I learned. In a pitch meeting, we would say, 7 ways you can lose weight by only eating fast food. Say that was the story that I'm pitching from an email. And I said, this is kind of good. And the guy has a cookbook or whatever, a Cooksy book. And there's something we could do with that. And then he would always say, what will this person say? And then I would say, and actually this is what my colleague did. He looked and he said, I need a prop for this. He looked at his piece of paper and he said, I don't really, I'm not sure. And then Bill said, all right, well, why don't you pitch it next time when you know what the person will say? So my colleague said, okay. And then he takes the paper and he starts crumpling it up and putting it under his seat. So I said, wait, Bill liked that. Why are you crumpling it up? So my friend said, by the time I track down that person and figure out what they say, we'll be on to the next thing. So forget it. Meanwhile, Bill liked your story, Scott Cooksey. So the moral of the story is in that pitch email, you got to write, I call it the point of view section. What will Scott say? Or you put your own name, people. And then you write it on there and then have something to say that's interesting for an interview. And 90% of the work is done now. Below that, you can put an article or whatever other stuff, the big blocks of text that you would have put in there otherwise, and then your contact information. Don't forget that part.
Does it matter to a TV producer whether or not you've actually been on camera before?
The bigger and biggest outlets, yes, but not always. And then anything under the Today Show and Good Morning America and some of those shows, they may want to see you doing something on camera, but you can share that with them, something that you've done on YouTube or Blab or one of these other things, something that you think shows you off in a positive light that would be similar to what they are going to get on their show. They're really just looking at it to see, will this person get me fired?
Well, that's a reasonable request.
It's pretty reasonable. And they'll look at it for 30 to 60 seconds and look and say, he's okay, he's good. He's going to say the right things. Versus you're stiff and we don't know. Or sadly, they're sometimes looking to see certain outlets, they may want maybe somebody younger or older or dressed in a certain way. Just do your best at being you and let go of that part. You may say, but I don't look like a supermodel or whatever it is. Good, because nobody does. And if they're not going to pick you based on some superficial thing, then it's silliness. But on occasion, that can happen. But I would say stick to your story, pitch it everywhere. If the story is good enough, they're going to want you.
So often I hear people that want to become a speaker, people that want to become an expert in something, somebody trying to position themselves for, running their own business or becoming known in their space. A lot of people that listen to this show are what I call employeepreneurs. They're people who maybe work for an organization, but they have that entrepreneur mindset and they run it like it's theirs and somebody else is paying their overhead. But you see people that get stuck on well, what's the formula? How do I do it? And you just shared with us a formula for how to get the attention because you put us in the seat that you sat in for so many years as the TV producer, because that's how fast it happens. But what I really loved in that was you said, be you, just be you. And if you're the right fit for the right opportunity and you're doing your work to push that message out to as many people as you can, those opportunities will come.
Absolutely. We're usually a poor copy of somebody else, but we can be number one at being us. And I think the sooner we figure that out, it only took me like 12 or 15 years to figure that out. Other people might say otherwise of me, but I think when I finally just said I'm going to totally embrace just whatever my personality is and run with it, only good things end up happening. People should do that. In fact, so when I'm training people, when it's either media training or presentation training, which is public speaking training for business people, I will usually say, take what you also think is your biggest negative, and turn it into your biggest positive.
Give us an example of that.
I'll give you an example. I had a guy who came into one of my workshops, and he had a really gravelly voice like this. And, it was there was something a little, kind of almost a little bit strange about it. He had gray hair. He was probably like 55 years old, and he talked like this. So I kept thinking in my head while he's talking about his topic, which was he's a financial advisor.
No, so, that is not the image I got in my head when he used that voice. So I can see why the guy would think that was a threat, because I used to be a financial advisor.
Yeah, you just want something that's not going to be a distraction. So I said, look, we should always take anything that is either we think is our biggest negative. He hadn't pointed it out yet, but I think everybody in the room kind of felt something was a little off. I said, or something that could potentially be, which means I've pointed it out now, a negative, and turn it into our biggest positive. I said, so, when I hear you talk, it sounds to me, and he goes, I know, I had a voice coach who once tried to work with me. You can't do anything. So I said, you sound kind of like a basketball coach. You sound like you're the kind of guy who's like, all right, we're going to get everybody. You're going to get on the field, or you're going to get on the court. You're going to do this. Bobby's going to run in here. He's going to go. So everybody in the whole room erupted, and they're like, he totally is that. So he looked at everybody as he's getting all this positive confirmation, and he says, well, I sometimes call myself the money coach. So the rest of the day, everybody was like, money coach, hey, coach. The whole rest of the day, he's coach. The second he embraced that, it went from being this negative to just being awesome. It was just, he's coaching. All right, here's what you got to do. We got to go through your money. We're going to find out what are your magic numbers. All right. It's something I call magic number. It was great. And I'll give you one other quick example, which is I worked with two separate groups in the same week that happen to also be financial advisors, a niche that I happen to work with, usually more on the speaking side. And one group was age 75 and older, and another group was age 30 or 28 and down to 22. Each group kind of felt like they were not in the sweet spot. And by the way, the secret on the sweet spot is often it's like 5 minutes long and nobody tells you you're in the sweet spot. So just make all of it work. You don't know. You're like, that was last week. I can't believe it. Nobody told me that was the exact sweet spot. So the younger people, I said, listen, you're going after clients who are around your same age. We got to turn this into your biggest positive instead of saying, oh, but I want to work with someone who's been doing this for 20 years or so or 30 years. Say, hey, I'm going to be the guy who sticks with you and stays with you long term through your career. I know what you're going through because you're just starting your career. And, and I've done all the work to know what to do with people in your niche. So that was great. And then on the older folks, we played on experience. We had them say, look, I'm not some young, whippersnapper who just walked out of the gate. I'm somebody who's been there and done that and seen everything. And I'm going to tell you strategies that other people won't learn for 20 years, and then they won't be relevant. So those guys were all lit up too. Take your biggest negative and turn it into your biggest positive.
That's fantastic advice. So as I'm thinking about that sizzle reel, right? And where do we get that footage from? Something I've seen you do, I've observed you doing this is you'll interview people. You'll interview anybody. And well, I don't know if it's anybody.
I'm interviewing Scott right now, and he doesn't know it.
Oh my goodness, this is crazy.
Actually, technically I am. Well, no, it's your interview, but keep going. But it's true. I do lots of interviews. Keep going, and we'll work.
Are you rebroadcasting without express written consent from the network? Anyway, I always wondered who was the person who rebroadcast without express written consent, because we
did that in college with NFL footage, but then we got some express written consent. You were recognizing one of my strategies, which is interviewing people. Yeah, which you're doing at this moment.
I did a little bit of homework, actually, little prep before we got on here, kind of poked around your website. But here's the deal. Anytime you go speak, you talk to people, you're doing something, there's always somebody that comes up to you at the end and is like, oh my God, that was so awesome. Thank you so much. You changed my life. Do whatever. And it used to be, it would be like, oh, would you write that on your company's letterhead and send me a letter so I can use that as a reference and blah, 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 blah. The answer is no, it never happens. Nobody ever follows up with that letter.
Right.
If you own one of those letters, frame it, take photos of it, put it on the wall, and celebrate that because you have found a unicorn. But what I've seen you and some other people do quite effectively is hang on, and you grab your mobile studio right here, right?
That's it.
Would you say that again? And can I use that to share with other people? And they're in the moment, they're feeling the emotion of your message, and they're like, yes, absolutely. And you capture those moments. So I've seen you do that, and I've seen you also do that man on the street type interview where you're at a conference. I mentioned we were at a conference together not that long ago, a month or so back, and as we were there, I would see you off to the side, talking to somebody, and you had a microphone, and the phone is on the selfie stick out there, so you had a cameraman, very CSI kind of or Law and Order, I guess, kind of style, because it's going to be
we killed people and drew a line around them.
Yeah, it's cool. The best part is when you'd ask a question, then it would go shing, 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 like Law and Order, and then yeah, exactly. But tell us, how do you use that footage? What's it? Tell me what you're doing in that moment, because I kind of hinted. I think you're gathering the emotion, but what else do you do with that?
So for people who are out in front of people publicly, like speaking, and somebody comes up and says, "Hey, that was amazing," or they give some sort of compliment, the steps are: 1, thank them because you should be a human being, and because your mother taught you that, hopefully, when you were a child. Say thank you. So say, thank you, but that was thank you. You made my day. And then the next thing is, yes, you could take your mobile studio out and say, would you mind saying that? Would you? And 99% of the time they say yes. One time a woman said, I don't have makeup on and I gotta later. I'll try to find you, which was understandable. And the other thing that I have, you don't need to have this, but it's good for busy events, is this little thing called the Smart Lav, LAV. You can buy it on Amazon for $80, and I think they make other ones, but this is made by a company called Rode, RODE. So it's a really good sounding microphone. And so then you do that and you get that great piece of footage, and then you have that forever. But in the moment, people are usually grateful that you gave them something and you give something, they're being able to give something back. But the other thing you're noticing is that I'll interview people. So I've done it either in person with a selfie stick and I'm pointing to my mobile studio here. And it may look a little goofy. The one you saw, somebody was nice and they held this up, the camera for me, which was this. Right. But I've had it where I just hold it. And the best thing happens, say you're at a conference or you're somewhere and there's somebody you admire or they are the big speaker. If you say, hey, can I interview you? They feel elevated and they're going to talk to you longer than they would have talked to anybody else. So now you're getting all this extra, one-on-one time with them. Now you're kind of the big elevated star because they were a second ago, but now they're, you're in control of the questions. So you're elevated that way. And then when they see it, because obviously you would like to share it with them, they're like, wow, okay, where's this thing showing up? So you can put it obviously on your own social media channels, on your YouTube page. If you don't have one, go get one. If you're somebody, like you said, people who have a job, would you call them like intrapreneurs? What was your
employeepreneur?
Employeepreneurs.
Yeah.
Great way to stand out. You're going to a conference or you want to highlight people that you work with that are great. You're interviewing them, whether it's on video like this or using Blab, you can do that. Right. Or your phone, or you can use freeconferencecall.com. I like to use Uber Conference, which is another really cool one. It's just very easy to hit record. And then you have this thing. And then, again, you continue to be elevated because people keep seeing you. And they're like, who is that person? Who is he or she? What's that about? And you'll only get better. So the strategy really is just to be seen everywhere, but also to add massive value to the equation. So if you become seen as a person who's always adding value, which is a key piece for business, you don't always have to be selling something, but all the in between is just massive, massive value. You get credit for that, and then you build the like, know, and trust. So at this conference, that was what I was doing. I was interviewing some people about what they talk about. And actually, I was working on a secret project for getting some quotes for something else that we'll announce at another point, which was for Jeffrey Hazlett's C-Suite network.
Yes. You
Yes.
spoke at that conference that was shortly after the one I saw you at, right? Or at least you were there?
I actually did interviewing again.
Okay.
So this whole interviewing thing has grown for me. So just to show you how new opportunities can show up, Jeffrey Hazlett has seen some interviews that I've done. I actually did some interviews in Times Square last year for an actual TV show. So here it is, I may do stuff with my phone, and then you have people for an actual TV show that said, hey, you know what, we want to make you one of the hosts. So I did that. He saw that and said, I have some ideas for something that we can kind of make a pilot for. I wonder how we would pull that off. So I just said, why don't I go to the conference and let's just start shooting stuff. So boom, that's what we did.
Nice.
I was there. So every one of the awesome speakers that they had, that they had on stage, they had Faith Popcorn, futurist. They had David Meerman Scott, who's a big writer about PR. They had the CEO of Dale Carnegie. I got to interview all of these folks for 5 or so minutes, and it was great. And then each of them were saying, "Can I have your card? Who are you?" Right?
Wow.
So it's a great way to stand out.
So it's the old reminder that sometimes it's good to put something out in the world that demonstrates the direction you want to go. Let people see it. Somebody will recognize it at the right time, because timing is very important. And people will say, oh, I've been thinking about something. Oh, that's interesting. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. Well, maybe you could do it. And you just said, you know what, Jess, you can identify the opportunity of how to help him faster than he would have come up with it on his own. And I love the fact that you were quick enough to say, why don't I just come to your event, interview some people, we'll gather some content that's real. You're closer to the finished product, but you still haven't had to worry about it. I think back early in my career, I got some advice from one of my first real supervisors. I was in a management training program. Oh, this goes back a ways. She said to me once, she said, Scott, from where I sit, it looks like you're always getting ready to get ready. And that phrase haunted me for a long time. I'm someone that always thought of himself as a get things done kind of person. It wasn't until just a few years ago that I was doing some study and some research and actually uncovered the fact that when it's something new or when it's something I'm under stress to achieve, process becomes very important to me. And if I can't figure out exactly what the steps are, what the prescription is, what the formula is, I have a tendency I get a tremendous amount of anxiety about wanting to do something, but I don't know exactly what it is I'm supposed to do. And the answer 9 times out of 10 is do something. And if it's wrong, you course correct and you adjust and you move on. I'm kind of hearing that in the message of what you just shared with us about you had an idea, you knew you wanted to go somewhere. In fact, this idea found you. I don't know that you consciously knew that's what you wanted to do, but it has opened some doors for you. And it sounds like other people could do the same.
Yes. I mean, some of it is planting seeds. It's something that's fun for me. Early on, actually, in my TV career, I did some on-air stuff that kind of also fell in my lap. I mean, I wanted to, but I worked on a show and they would send me out to just do wacky, fun stuff and little packages. And it was a cable channel that became MSNBC. It was originally called America's Talking. It was all talk shows.
You're right.
You may have said, I'm impressed if you saw it. It was only around
all about that, yeah.
So I was on a couple of shows, but I was on one called What's New, and it was products and gadgets and you name it. But they would send me out, and I would do wacky, fun pieces, and we'd always try to make it better and better. And then Bill Gates came along and said, let's start a news channel, and then they fired everybody. But but it was a great experience, and it's come full circle. But back to the thing you just said, that feeling of what are the steps, or I can't do things if I don't know the steps, and do something. That's what all the successful people say, which is just go out, start doing something. And the other thing I realized, which relates to this, is you can always ask questions. Just reach out to, say you're trying to get your book done and you're deciding I'm going to self-publish. I don't know what the steps are. Okay, well, turn to a friend or somebody who self-published or somebody you admire and just say, how did you handle this step? I mean, they may say, I outsourced it to this person. They're good. I recommend them. Or they may say, this person is the one person who will handle all of it for you. Right. Okay. You can get the answers. You just have to ask the questions. And then action is the other piece that you brought up. But I think we've all felt that. You know what? I have a lot of good things that are going for me right now that are happening in my life and business. And then I also have a bunch of things that I feel exactly the way you just said, because we're all, it's like, it seems like everybody else has everything together, but every one of us has something that we're like, I don't have this piece down. There are pieces in my marketing systems that are better than other people and way, way worse than the good marketers who are doing the right thing. I'm not frequent in my email marketing. I have some lists that I built, but they don't hear from me all the time. I know how I could fix that. I just haven't. And I will at some point. But when it comes to video, that's an area that I'm ahead of other people. So the thing is, behind the head, just do something. You can't do everything. You can get a virtual assistant to fill in the gaps. Back to media, you can get a virtual assistant to help you send out press releases. You can do it one day a month. You just do something is the way to do it. And if people are unsure about media addresses, I should have brought it up earlier, they can reach out to me. I don't want to do any selling on this thing, but I have a little package that includes media addresses from when I did the Guinness push and some newer ones. Yeah. So Jess at successinmedia.com.
Successinmedia.com.
That's it.
All right. We'll make sure we include that in the show notes as well. So just a couple of quick questions before we go. Let me ask one more thing.
Yes.
As I think about the anxiety of using video, some people, now it's interesting because I think it depends on what maybe your comfort level is with technology. And so I'll resist attaching any generations label with that, but there are definitely a lot of platforms that make it easy. You're co-broadcasting today on Periscope, using your phone.
Yes, I am.
Right?
Hey,
we're using
Periscope people.
What's up? We're also, we're going to repurpose the video from today's video cast of our interview on YouTube. Twice during the interview, there's a button here that lets me share the last 30 seconds. I presume it put it out on Twitter. I'm going to have to research that. I've never used that function before, but I tried it. So there's a lot of ways we're used to pushing it out. Snapchat lets you put out, 6 seconds, or that was Vine. But Snapchat does something else, and lots of platforms. But where I'm getting at with this is there's so many different ways to use video that some people do get wrapped around the axle thinking about, how do I even edit this? What do you recommend? Is there any trick to editing, or is the idea just quit worrying about it, grab a snippet, a portion that seems to make sense, and just stick it out there? How much production needs to go into that when somebody puts a piece of video up, aside from a sizzle reel, which you probably had to work with a pro, or at least somebody that has some experience to sort of cobble that together, I presume. But if I'm wrong, tell us.
I think you could do it both ways. I mean, I'm big on quality over quantity. So I would want the quality of the material to definitely be there.
Okay.
But I definitely think that you can do it from a home office. I think the nice thing about some of these, say Blab or Periscope or YouTube, you can shoot it on your phone. You can be walking around somewhere cool in public. I think I was telling you, because I'm located in New York, I can walk into Times Square and put the phone on a selfie stick, and now it really looks awesome.
Yeah.
And I make sure I have the microphone so people can hear me. The area that people really slow down is they feel like, maybe I don't have a face for TV, or what if I don't sound right, or this and that. And the thing is, again, be real. It's funny. You said on one of your last interviews, I tuned in and I watched some of yours, and you were leaning into the microphone, and you said, I'm looking at myself. I'm really close now. And if the camera adds 10 pounds, it begs the question, how many cameras they have on me today? And we've all felt that.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give a strategy for people, which is what's closest to the camera is largest, what's furthest away is smallest. So in a sitting interview, you want to actually tilt, I'm going to turn sideways here, 15 degrees forward. Yeah, so I'm going to sit back, and then I'm going to tilt forward. So what happens is my head is a little bit bigger and my body is not. I mean, and you can kind of experiment with the camera to see, like, this seems like a good, I'm probably only about 10 degrees forward. And this way my head is bigger. But you notice now, does he like it? We tend to do this if we're doing a web broadcast. And now we're a bunch of big faces. Find kind of that sweet spot. So usually in a TV interview, if you lean like that, it looks slimming, say, over here, and then makes this area look a little bit better. And then, the rest of it, we just have to be us and let go of whatever it is and have people say, that person's a real person.
If you're doing a live interview on the street, you wear your Michael Jackson boots from Smooth Criminal, or they?
So for on the street, it's usually a lighting thing, flat lighting that tends to make people look a certain way. There's a whole thing. I mean, in photographs where they shoot down, and I've had people in video where they say, shoot down, but now you look like you're 5 years old and you're looking up at the camera, and I don't think that works for video. But if you have a jacket, you just buttoning the jacket as I do it like this kind of brings the eyes up. And, the other half of it is male or female, especially, if people are heavier. That's what people certainly in the United States look like, and just embrace who you are and your content and run with it, and people will like you.
We all have expertise in something, and it's just having the confidence and I say it's definitely courage, the courage to just say, yes, I know about this, and just saying, I'm going to own that. I'm weird. I know about this. I'm like everybody else. I think I know about that, but I really don't, and just kind of own who you are. I've got to think that, you have to have content, right? You have to know something, but I think confidence can go a long way in how someone is perceived. You may be the smartest person in the world, but if you can't articulate that, if you can't boil that down to some talking points, and you can't get that point across in a short period of time, that would make it difficult, I would think, for someone doing a traditional media interview. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, and I have something great to add for confidence. I will tell people, whether I'm training them for doing media interviews or giving a speech, I'll say, I have a little checklist that they go through. And on there it says, looked confident or seemed comfortable. I said, I want you to look closely at the wording of that. And then I ask them, is it better to look calm and comfortable or be calm and comfortable? And then they will think about it for a second, and they're not usually 100% sure. If you look the part, you get credit for it. And then once you start to look the part, eventually it starts to catch up, and then you just start to feel it. A phrase that I put in the book that's coming out in a couple of months, it's called Media Secrets. You're one of the first to hear.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yes. Is a phrase that I like to say, instead of fake it till you make it, I like to say act it and become it.
Oh, I like that so much better. Thank you.
So just act the part. You seem calm and comfortable. And next thing you know, you are.
Oh, I love it.
That's how that works.
That is awesome. So, Jess, you are a media trainer, a speaker. You can do lots of different things to work with people. Tell people where they can find you. How can they follow you? How do you get into Jess's world? How do you get on your ever so often mail list?
Yeah, you can either Google Jess Todtfeld, good luck spelling it, or you can go to successinmedia.com. And either way, you'll see some of the stuff I'm up to. I like to actually interact with people. So if something resonated with you, send me a quick line or two, either through email or on the Success in Media site. There's a little pop-up bubble, and you can write a note or something like that. Somebody did actually while we were doing this, and I was periscoping it.
Yeah.
So I'll have to see what they are talking about. Cool. I don't know what it's about, but that's nice that somebody just sent a note.
Since Todtfeld is sort of I know you, I know how to spell your name, and I still screw it up. It's Todtfeld, and here it is for Twitter. Ready? @Media Jess. That was brilliant. Just go with the brand. Go Media Jess. Like you said, Jess. Just be confident, know your talking points, but just be you. We're all people. We're all human beings. and a little bit of humility and confidence can go a really long way.
And take that and plant little seeds. You want to be doing something, plant seeds out there. You could do something like this, and you never know what's going to grow.
All right, so we've got one last piece. 3 quick questions. I call it the lightning round. They'll take
lightning round.
We're talking 20-second answers-ish, right, for these?
Yeah.
I got 3 questions.
20-minute answers are coming.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, 30-minute answers. Wow, this is about to be long-form interview, which is a whole different animal. All right, here we go. You ready?
Yes.
What does success mean to you?
Success means living your life in a way that you feel great about and that you make the world better.
What does happiness mean to you?
Very similar. Happiness means being grateful for what you have and not focusing on what you don't have yet. So it's a gratitude thing, which then I can rope in all the things that I love in my life, like my family and being able to do cool stuff and earn a living from it.
This is the last question. This one's a little more fun. Jess, unfortunately, something has happened, and you are now going to be on an island by yourself to live out your days. And I know it's tough. There's not a lot of media.
iPhones?
Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing. There's this magical, I like to say the magical coconut that's there. And on that coconut can be loaded a single musical album that you can listen to as your soundtrack as you live out your days. What is on that magical coconut?
It's going to have to be a compilation album because whatever it is, I'm going to hate it after a while. The very first thought that went into my mind was Bob Marley because I'm on an island and I like some good Bob Marley. If you've ever been on a cruise, it's like the first day they play stuff like that. And by the last day, you're like, all right, I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
What do they call it? Those things like something like, hey,
this is what's hot now, or one of those.
Yeah, this is what's hot now. It's called So You're Stranded Now, volume 32. And so it's got some Bob Marley. Yeah. It's got some Black Eyed Peas. It's got some Led Zeppelin. It's got some, you got to put in a little classical in there because I'm going to be on this island forever.
Yeah.
Some Enya.
Oh, good.
Yeah, maybe we want to chill out. Indigo Girls. I like some good Indigo Girls.
There you go.
I've worn those down. Coldplay.
Yeah.
Notice how I used it as a way to be able to bring up all the stuff I want to keep listening, but I just maybe a couple of songs for each.
Yeah, of course.
So it's more like a mixtape.
You're not the first person that has gone for the mixtape option.
I have a cool mixtape that I'm going to show you right now.
That's fantastic. That looks familiar.
It's a Scott Cooksey card that looks like a mixtape. Success Charger Podcast. And on the back, it says interviews and outtakes for this one, but he has a whole bunch of different ones. So a certain generation will love that it's a cassette tape. That would be me. So look, free stuff on there. Free.
Every Tuesday, you get a brand new episode of this show and all kinds of good stuff.
You didn't know that I was even going to say mixtape or that this was staring at me. I have it because it's fun. Yeah. I have it staring at me on my desk right over there.
That is awesome. And that just validated my whole reason for going with the unusually shaped card that had sort of a fun theme to it, because that's who we are, man. You've just got to be you. I've tried the stuffy business cards and other stuff throughout the years. Somebody told me recently that the phrase they used was, you finally have aged into your experience. And I think what she meant was, I'm now comfortable with who I am and what I'm about. And you know what? This is just me. And I'm glad that we had you, Jess, on today to talk about just you so we can learn how to leverage the media. Thank you so much for being part of the show today.
This was awesome.
Really a pleasure. Next time I get to New York, we'll stand in Times Square and we'll do a little addendum piece that we'll add in.
Good being on the show with you, Cooksey.
Enjoyed it, brother. Thanks. If you enjoyed what you just heard, please post your 5-star review and subscribe to Success Charger today. Your future is waiting.
In a pitch meeting, we would read off and we'd say, Scott Cooksey is
Oh, brother, did I just say
Which,
that?
by the way, let me tell you what I love about your name, and then I'll explain what that I learned from Bill O'Reilly, which